Hello everyone, welcome to the orientation video for Sociology 321, Race, Ethnicity, and Equality in the United States. This is just an overview of the class. Almost all of this information you can get simply by reading the syllabus thoroughly. So make sure you take a look for that, and if you have any questions, just simply email me. Just a quick overview, just a little introduction to me, course description and learning outcomes, syllabus, keys to success, and what you need to do for your next class. Um, so a little bit about me, starting from left to right in terms of these pictures. Um, I am the daughter of, of immigrant parents who migrated here to the United States from China when they were about 8 years old. Um, I have a younger brother, and as you can see, that's me in the picture, the sort of bottom right hand corner there. My parents are now divorced, but this sort of is just symbolic of sort of the 70s fabulousness that they wore at the time. Um, the middle picture represents the place I call home. I was born and raised in San Francisco, but I also just moved up here to Sacramento a year ago for this job here at Sacramento City College, but I'd previously been living in Southern California between San Diego and Los Angeles over the last 18 years. Um, and this last picture would be just this most recent graduation that I'm on the faculty here at Sacramento City College full time. So if this type of class is what you're interested in, you could take an in-person class from me or other members of the sociology department here in the fall or spring. I'm pictured there with Professor Nick Miller and Professor Angela Block. Now, for me as a professor, my work and why I decided to become a teacher is very much rooted in my grandparents. This is a picture of my grandparents on their wedding day over 80 years ago. My grandparents passed away when I was relatively young. I was a little younger than 10 years old. And so my memories of them are rather minimal. And so, in many ways, why I do sociology is to really try to better understand their story and how it relates to the contemporary moment. My grandfather came to the United States in what's today's parlance is called being an undocumented immigrant. People like to use the word illegal. I don't. We'll talk about that later in this class. But he was at what we call a paper son. In 1906 in San Francisco, not only was there a great earthquake, but there was a great fire. Um, the fire burned down the Hall of Records in San Francisco, which basically meant that the records that said who could come into the United States and who couldn't were gone. Because if you remember from your U.S. history, or assuming that you had a pretty comprehensive U.S. history course before, um, in 1880, all Chinese were restricted from coming to the United States, and as such, from 1880 until about 1953, under the McCarran-Walter Act, Chinese were restricted from entry. And so the only way that they were able to come to the United States after 1906 was with fake papers. That the only Chinese who were allowed into the country were those who could prove that they were the son or daughter of a merchant. And so when the Hall of Records burned down, this opened up the opportunity for on paper to say that people were the son or daughter of a merchant. And so many, particularly Chinese men, came to the United States during that time period as paper sons. My grandfather worked the fields of California, all up and down, particularly through the Monterey, all the way up here to Sacramento, trying to support his family, namely my grandmother and my aunts and my mom, who were back in China. And at the time, we didn't have the sort of walls that we have now that prevented people from being able to kind of come and go. So he would go back to China intermittently. But for many years, he was separated from my mom and aunts and my grandmother. And so a lot of the work I do and that I've researched and what I teach about is also based on this idea of family reunification. That what we learn through U.S. history is that immigrants and immigrant families have been separated for long periods of time. We saw this with the Chinese and Japanese, but you also can see it in the histories of Mexicans coming to the United States under the Bracero program. We we know from the history of the transatlantic African slave trade that the sort of violence associated with slavery also meant that they tore families apart. And also in a contemporary context, we're also look at the fact that um, that all immigrant families, even today, remain in a precarious situation where through the lack of work or what work is available here in the United States as opposed to home, that families are separated. And so part of the story is how do they come back together? Eventually, my grandfather and my mom um, and aunt and grandmother all migrated to the United States to escape um, the sort of communist takeover of China, and they were able to do so legally. But that was a very different time than what we live in today. Um, I also study work and labor. This means understanding the meaning of work and um, how it supports our lives, how it structures different relationships, and also understanding relationships of power as it relates to work. As I've also noted, I study a lot about immigration and immigrant America. I'm also someone who who has focused in my work on ethnic studies and in particular focusing specifically on Asian American studies. And maybe most pertinently for this class, I also focus a lot on social justice and social change. So all of these things inform who I am as a scholar, who I am as a teacher, and also my approach to this class. Because as you'll see throughout this class, you're presented with a rather diverse curriculum, and I challenge you to read, uh, thoroughly a lot of sort of the nuanced work. So you've already signed up. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm just getting over a cold here. Um, you've signed up for Sociology 321. And so, as it's already described on your syllabus, this course examines patterns of ethnic relations. It also emphasizes the domestic meaning of the United States, but also includes investigations of global concerns. Topics include everything from discrimination, prejudice, social stratification, inequality, racism, sexism, ageism, homophobia, and other related topics. This is a distance education class, and it only meets actually, it doesn't meet on campus at all. Excuse that line there. All work is completed online within D2L. Uh, these are the same learning objectives that are already on your syllabus. If you have questions, you should, of course, contact me. The required readings, and this is something that I want to make note of. There's one book for this class. It's called Racism Without Racists by Eduardo Bonilla Silva. I've uploaded an electronic version of the book into week 2. So anytime you see Bonilla Silva come up on the syllabus, note that you should just go ahead and look at the book that's already uploaded to week 2. But for some of you, you like the sort of paper copy. I know that the bookstore has purchased some copies. I think it's cheaper for you to buy it online. It is edition 4. I want to note that this is a tough read. And you need to make sure you set aside time to read this particular text. Um, the reason I assign it, and this is what all my students from my previous classes have said, is that while it's difficult, it also presents a really important framework for understanding race in the United States, and that students felt that it was an extremely helpful way of understanding race in the US. So, like I said, I want to warn you that this is a tough book. I will structure my lectures so that you can read it you could watch a lecture in advance and then read it. But make sure you set aside extra time when we have those chapters. All other readings are uploaded to D2L. In fact, they're already there. On occasion, I'm going to ask you to look at newspaper articles, and I am very specific about what newspapers you can use. You can use New York Times, LA Times, Washington Post, SACB, Time Magazine, Wall Street Journal, or BBC. Not all newspapers are created equal, and that's why I'm very specific about what you can use. All of these you can actually access online, and your syllabus has the online links to this. And note that I may alter or change parts of the syllabus as necessary. A little note on attendance and participation. This class is online and requires that you independently manage your time and participation. Failure to complete or submit more 3 discussion boards or homework assignments is the equivalent of 3 absences in my mind, and as such, you'll be dropped from this course. So don't miss assignments and do not miss your discussion board posts. As you'll see that I also have online lectures. These will be 20 to 30 minutes in length. And then, of course, you have your course readings. Each of you has been assigned to a discussion forum. All your entries and responses should be done within your assigned forum group. This is designed so that you don't have to compete with everybody else in the class to have your voice heard, but instead you can have a conversation, a much more intimate conversation with people in your group. I simply sorted the groups alphabetically. You are required to do 2 board entries per week. One is uploaded on is due Thursday, the other is due on Sunday, and then you have to do 2 responses per board entry. So in other words, 4 responses over the course of a week. As I note in the syllabus, your discussion board entries should be about somewhere between 300 and 400 words, and your responses should be between 100 and 150. In addition, you'll have reading quizzes, a midterm, and a final. All of these will be uploaded to reading quizzes will be online quizzes that will be timed. Midterm and final are things that you'll put into Dropbox for me. A quick note on late work. In general, I do not accept late work. A makeup exam or quiz is will only occur when there are exceptional circumstances. You need to provide written proof of the exceptional circumstances. And you need to notify me of the situation at least 1 day prior. I also reserve the right to ask for additional corroborating evidence to determine your eligibility for a makeup exam. Please also note that if you need any accommodations for this class in terms of learning disability, please email me as soon as possible. Other requirements and expectations: you need to know how to access D2L, you need to read all your assigned materials, watch all course lectures, understand and comply with SEC Student Code of Conduct. Probably equally important in all of this is that you follow group agreements. Talking about race and ethnicity can often be contentious. It can also get tense, but at the same time, this is how we learn. So please note that I will intervene if I feel that there's inappropriate behavior going on, and if failure to comply with with the rules on more than with the rules and group agreements on multiple occasions may result in me asking you to drop the class. There are some group agreements that you need to be able to follow. Number 1 is that you respect one another. This means that we critique ideas and not people. I do not allow you people comments, and I don't allow inflammatory language, as I've put on here. There needs to be active engagement. Don't just give your opinion, but reflect on what others in your group are writing. But also give substantive responses, how you've read the readings differently, what you think of these readings, and how it might differ. I'm asking you to be open-minded. So often what we know about race is simply opinion and what we've watched on the news, and it's not based in empirical evidence. So you may be challenged. The material for this class may challenge your understandings of race. Be open-minded to new material and new ideas, both from me and the material as well as your classmates. If you're not clear about what someone is saying or what I'm saying, simply ask questions, and most importantly, be ready to learn. So contacting me, best way is to email me, or you can also leave, if you email me, I should say, I check my email at least twice a day at 10 a.m. and 9 p.m. I try to respond to all inquiries within 24 to 36 hours. Sometimes it takes me a little longer based on the type of question. You can also leave a voice message at my voicemail. It forwards to my email as well, so I'm able to get it at all times. If in fact you want to meet in person and we schedule a meeting in person, you can come to my office at Rada South 259. All office hours are by appointment. And I'm happy to schedule phone appointments or in person appointments. That's just really up to you. If you have any questions, make sure you contact me as soon as possible. Thank you.